Yes, good morning. It is that time of the week again. It's my early morning start, so it's time to do a fragrance drive along video. It's the first day I've done one of these where I haven't had to switch my light on at the top here so you can actually see me, but it is 5 to 6. Got the buttermint in my mouth as usual. So what are we going to talk about today? Well, I wanted to do a little bit of research yesterday just to kind of see, because in recent weeks I always talk about clone fragrances, obviously I own some clone fragrances, and I've always felt, that the clone industry is sort of growing because essentially people can't afford expensive fragrances, and let's be honest, for a lot of people that probably is the case. It's very expensive. If you want to buy like a Tom Ford private blend, you're talking £300 plus, and for a lot of people that's a very, very big investment. But when I thought about it, I thought, well, these brands, they don't seem to be struggling though. Your Tom Fords don't seem to be struggling. Online there's so many new releases of fragrances. Has the clone industry really sort of taken over, let's say, and people are moving towards cheaper scents? So I wanted to do a bit of research. So it doesn't look like it is, and there was a news headline that came out the other day, and I believe the company's called Interparfums. They announced that they've recorded, I think it was 1.49 billion profits last year, or sales, sorry, from their perfume brands, so Coach, Guess, Jimmy Choo. Yeah, they announced record profits or record sales, which is unbelievable because, if you live in the UK or just globally, of course, we know with the wars and, the impact of COVID, I still think we're still catching up, and it still feels like there's a cost of living crisis, let's say, but people are still buying fragrances. It shows that the fragrance industry, even, something where you don't need a fragrance, do you? It's still absolutely flourishing, and in some ways doing better than ever, and you can still get these brands that are bringing out more and more new releases. It doesn't seem to be stopping. So I think the talking point I wanted to look at today is, why is that? What might be the reasons for these brands that are, why are they absolutely flourishing at the minute? What are they doing that's, oh, that car is so stupid. BMW's just overtaken me and gone in the wrong lane and then caught the other van to beat it. Anyway, so I'm going to give my reasons today of why I think the fragrance industry is still doing well and why people are still buying fragrances and still spending high prices. Because with my research as well, the top selling ones are still brands like Dior, Chanel, Givenchy, Lancôme, expensive brands that are making high quality systems. You're going to be paying at least £50 and probably nearer 100 for a lot of their fragrances. So I've got some theories as to why it's not struggling. Again, comment below your theories. The first one is, it's a little treat to yourself. Look, we live in a world where work's tough at times. We have people who can't afford to go on holiday. Some people, there's loads of people out on the road today. It's 5 to 6. But there's a lot of times we feel miserable and we need to just buy something or treat ourselves to something, and fragrances can be that. And I'll be honest, at Christmas time, or whether it's my birthday or I've had a tough month at work, it's payday, one of the first things I think to buy is a fragrance. Do I need them? No, it's just something I like. It's a bit of a collectible hobby, and it can be that for a lot of people. But you've got to remember as well, when you buy a fragrance, they're not just something you use once, like a coffee, where you go for a coffee with a friend, you drink the coffee and it's gone. Fragrances can last you months to a few months, even up to a year. I've had some that have lasted me a couple of years because I don't wear it all the time. And that's a good thing with them. They're not just something where you buy it and it's gone straight away. This is a little treat you can have for a little while, and it just makes you feel better. I've said this before, if you wash your hair, you have a shower before you go to work, sit under a blanket at night time, there's these little things that make you feel better, and I think that's what that is, putting on a nice fragrance. So it's something that will last a little bit of time. It's a little treat to yourself, and I think money sometimes can't really, it doesn't matter enough to stop you from having those things. You've got to have those little enjoyments in life, and I think perfumes and fragrances definitely are that. obviously another thing with that is they can be a hobby as well. So collecting fragrances is certainly a hobby. A lot of brands just bring out more and more fragrances. Look at me with Lush body sprays. The minute they bring a new one out, I'm desperate to try a new one because I love them so much. So, you know, that's another reason why people might think, oh, I'll treat myself because there's a new release out. And that's completely understandable as well. The other thing, of course, is a lot of the brands that do this is my next point. A lot of the brands that they sell fragrances, you think of like Burberry, you think of Prada, Versace, Gucci. They're not just a fragrance brand in general. A lot of them are actually more built for clothing. I mean, look at Tom Ford, for example. I know a Tom Ford suit is extremely expensive. So look, Tom Ford fragrance is 300, 400, 500 pounds. That's nothing compared to the price of what you're paying for other Tom Ford related items. And in some ways, I think that makes them more, you know, it's an easier thing to buy is a fragrance from an expensive brand than if you're spending high money on, you know, clothing or bags or whatever. I mean, a designer bag could cost you up to about, you know, £10,000, couldn't it? Whereas a fragrance on the whole is, you know, a fraction of that. So that might be another reason. You know, again, I remember trying to buy my brother a Burberry card holder once. It was £140, which is a lot more expensive than if I bought Burberry London, which is £30. But it's still got that name appeal, and that's really good to me. Now, the third point I'm going to make, of course, is websites. So I shop on a website called Beauty, and obviously I shop in Liberty in London at times. And what a lot of these shops also do, which help drive beauty sales and perfume sales, is they tend to have subscription or point systems. So I know Liberty have a yearly beauty subscription where every 3 months they give you a beauty box worth about £300 or 170 to £300, so you can try out new fragrances, samples. I believe you get discounts on their products. So it's like a nice subscription. It's like you're part of an elite club, an exclusive club. And then All Beauty, the website I use, they do a point system, and I didn't realise a little while ago, because I have an account on there, every time I make a purchase, it gives you so many points. So let's say it costs £28. I think you tend to get like 28 points, and sometimes you can get like double points, I think. So say you pay £28 for your fragrance order, you then may get 56 points. And over time, the points add up to get you a voucher. I think you need to get about 250 points. If you get 250 points, you get a £5 voucher, so £5 off an order. And recently I didn't realise I had that, and I managed to get, I had £10 on it because I never used them, I didn't even know about it. But because I had all these my beauty points or whatever they were called, it meant I thought, you know what, I don't need a spray, but I might as well buy one here because I've got these £10 vouchers. And you know, I think that's great with these brands. Yes, that's not directly the brands, the fragrance brand itself, but these shops that are selling fragrances or these discounters are also giving you a reason to go, yeah, actually, I might want to buy that because, you know, I've got £10 off. And that allows you to try more fragrances, you know, and get into those things. There's also some research out there that younger people are getting more into fragrances. Again, whether that's true, who knows, but I do notice there's a lot of young people that do have a scent on, whether it's an expensive scent or just a cheap scent. I think when you get to secondary school, you know, that's when you start to think, oh, I want to impress someone, and that's probably why sales on, you know, with younger people continue to be growing and growing and growing, because it's a very easy thing to do to make yourself smell a bit nicer essentially and be a bit more attractive potentially to someone else. But yeah, there's plenty of reasons, as I think, why someone might, or why this fragrance industry may not be suffering. And I think the other thing as well is, and maybe I'm being stereotypical here, maybe I'm wrong, but I think in general people who like fragrances may come from a certain background, and I don't want to sound snobby with this or stereotypical, but it does feel like fragrances, particularly in the early days, it was always a sign of like power. You know, the first Creed fragrance was actually made for George III, you know, because he wanted this nice leather smelling fragrance. And I think there's something to be said for that, is that it's a sense of power and luxury in the old days, and it's still a sense of, yeah, I think it makes you feel more expensive, you know, I also think that leads into my fifth point, is the beauty with perfumes and fragrances is it doesn't really matter. Like, it's a subjective thing where, look, you can spend £20 on a fragrance, or you can spend £200 on a fragrance, and you may prefer the smell of the £20 one, and you may get more compliments on the £20 one compared to the £200 one. Sometimes that's just the way it goes with fragrances and perfumes. You don't necessarily have to have the best smelling perfume, or the most expensive smelling perfume, to smell the best. And I think that's why the industry will always do well. You're not being priced out in that sense. Like, I mean, I'll give you a prime example. Another sport I used to play was obviously darts, and I used to badger my mum to get me the most expensive ones. So they were £50 at the time. Phil Taylor darts, because he was like my sporting idol, and I always said to my mum, I really want them. My mum bought them for me for my birthday. Bus, hurry up, bus, go. If you're gonna go, go. You better thank me as well. No, thanks, bus. Thanks for not thanking me for letting you go. Nobody else would have let you go. Anyway, morning. I get road rage very easily with driving. I find driving frustrating. If I don't have to drive, I wouldn't. But anyway, so I got these darts, played at them, played a professional player with them in an exhibition, and I just didn't get on with them. And I went back to my set that cost about $19.99, because it doesn't matter with darts. Some people will play with a cheap set that's not got a player's name attached to it, and that suits them. Whereas, you know, it's the same with fragrances, isn't it? You know, if you get the best running shoes, there's no two ways about it. Cheap running shoes, for me, they don't have the same cushioning, they don't have the same durability. They will injure you if you're doing high mileage like I like to do. You do need to spend more, because you will get that quality. Fragrances like darts, it doesn't necessarily matter. Price isn't necessarily the factor here that makes one better or worse. And I think that's always going to work, in the sense that the fragrance industry can thrive, because, you know, you can just buy any old, like Bentley for Men Intensity is one of the best, and it's under £30, and that kind of says it all for me. But yeah, they're kind of my reasons. I have to say, there must be a lot of reasons. I want to know your reasons for buying fragrances as well. You know, for me, it's obviously been a bit of a hobby over the last few years, and I've always said this, that you may not have time in the morning to do your hair, you may not always be the best dressed person in the world, you may not be the, you know, the most stylish, you may not really be interested in your appearance at all, but you can always put on a nice spray. And I've always felt, you know, it's a 2-second job, and at the end of the day, when I think about it, what do most people, it's such an easy way for someone to say a nice thing about you, and we all like people saying nice things about you. So when someone at work today would say to me, oh, you smell really nice, that makes me feel better. And that's what I'm looking for, something that will just make me feel better, whether it's just for myself, to make myself feel more alive, more awake in the day, or for someone else to remember you. But as I said, I've been known in a couple of my jobs for being the person that smells nice, and my brother has as well. And we're not, you know, people who like to be front and centre of attention. We like to be hiding in the background. But whether that's really obvious, someone mentions it or not, you can leave a good impression because of your smell. You don't even have to open your mouth. You can be that quieter person like ourselves, and yeah, leave a positive impression sometimes without even knowing. But yeah, let me know your reasons. I think fragrances are, it's a weird thing. Why do we like scent? I suppose it's part of our senses. Why do we like certain smells? Why is it that we like these gourmandy scents and whatever? What makes us have that real interest in it? What makes something attractive to someone and unattractive to others? So yeah, very interested. I'll do some more research at some point. I want to do a few more science experiment type videos as well, but I've got 3 more shifts to go this week. Once this week's done, I've got a bit of holiday, and then I'll have 11 days off, so that'll give me a real chance to do some of these things I've got planned. So yeah, thank you very much for watching. watching today. Apologies, I'm a little bit bunged up still. Feel a lot better, but it's a slow process. But yeah, thanks for watching. I will catch you later.